Paul Atkinson, and we have put a conservation easement on several years ago on the Terence C. and Gertrude M. Atkinson Memorial Farm Conservancy. And this segment is to inform people on into the future why we did it, what we're trying to protect. We got to, with this conservation easement, and hope friends and family of the farm support it over time. So the mission of our easement is to feed and power at least a family from on-site sources. And it's been a dream of the family, my father specifically, and then myself, as we've held this property since 1964, to work towards a self-sufficient family farm. And we've stretched that to both food and power. And then putting the conservation easement on it gives an outside organization, the Northwest Land Conservation Trust, oversight on into the future to see that that mission is being fulfilled. So we're going to take a walk around the farm, and you'll see different parts of it, and I'll try to describe what we're trying to accomplish by the various projects that we're doing. So let's proceed. Okay, so we're up on our southwest slope pasture, which starting 4 years ago, we started putting into developing a savanna. And we are planting trees 50 feet apart in rows that are 100 feet apart, which will end up giving us long, narrow pastures that we can easily use for rotational grazing. And then at the same time, you can see that we have pallets around each tree, which leaves a narrow strip about 3 feet wide going on either side of those trees, which we're hoping to allow native shrubs and particularly native grasses to grow. We've planted some, and we want to continue doing that. The tree species we're planting, I like to collect apple trees, so there's apple trees mixed in, but about a quarter of the trees we're planting are oak, both black and white, figuring that the black oak, as climate gets warmer and drier, this is the northern end of their range, and assume that it'll get more and more the center of their range. We're also trying sequoia up here. I've planted madrone, some plum. Let's see, what other trees do we have? Oh, incense cedar in the poorer spots, and planted some black locust, planted some various nut trees. Looking for some chinkapin. Would like to add that. Hopefully in the long term, you have enough oak trees for an oak savanna, and the other trees, many of them food producing and or appropriate for this drying climate. Okay, so what we're trying to do with this farm, as I've said a couple times, is to feed and power at least a family, and trying to figure out over time what is actually sustainable agriculture on this particular piece of property. And so we have a wide range of species, and we have laying hens. I've had as many as 1,200 laying hens on the farm. And at the moment I have about 400, thinking now that maybe a maximum of 500 birds is appropriate, and we move them across pasture. And so we are fertilizing while we're producing eggs and utilizing pasture with poultry, and I think that's an appropriate use. We also do about 100 turkeys, start with 100 turkeys each year and process them at our turkey plucking party the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Right now we have, I believe, 92 turkeys here in the middle of October, so we're probably going to have at least somewhere in the high 80s of birds that we'll be ready to process. And I keep 3 or 4 for breeding stock. Not been very successful in hatching my own birds, but I keep trying. Would like to get a line of birds that we could hatch all of our birds from this place. Like to be able to have all aspects of each species possible on the place. Takes a lot of hands. Thinking about the what place the goats hold here. We do get our household milk from the goats. Used to do it from the cows, but and still have cows capable of producing a lot of milk. They're just raising calves with it, multiple calves. The goats are actually easier for us to milk clean at this scale, so for the house, that's what we do. I'm beginning to believe also that if you're talking about really self-sufficiency and feeding year-round, that the goats have a spot here in which you could make hay on, and you would have to make some hay for goats, but they also, if they were tended correctly, if you had the labor to do it, could be browsers year-round. We've had sheep 3 different times on this farm, and then they were gone again. Part of it because I don't particularly love sheep, but we are looking at sustainability. How do you feed people without outside purchase? And sheep in this area probably are one of the more efficient users of forage, and they can browse or graze, but they also can get enough feed during the winter that you wouldn't have to buy hay. Come on, you. So on-farm biogas still makes a lot of sense to me as a piece of your energy. So what's the next on-farm power source if we're trying to feed and power ourselves? Well, solar seems to be the most sure. It's expensive, and we have to, over time, we're going to keep adding to it. We had a 3 kilovolt system put in 5 years ago, I believe. And then this past year, we put in 8.5 more. We want to keep adding collection capacity as we have financial capability over time. So that's what we're doing. So this is our family cemetery, and that was really important to us to put that here. My dad always wanted to be buried on the farm, and so when he died in 2001, we put a legal cemetery together, and I planted that pine tree at the head of his grave, and then my mother died in 2007, and she's next to him, and it's kind of the head of hers too, and that tree has grown really well since it's been fertilized. And it's a real important touchstone for me to look up here and to feel like they're permanently here, part of it. I feel like having a cemetery on the farm is a real strong reminder to family that you don't sell the bones of your ancestors, and hopefully people take it seriously and keep this farm in the family like we intend it to be, and have a a place for people to come to that they can feed and power themselves, and hope they take seriously the generations and the hours and the lives that it's taken to take the farm this far, and hopefully that'll continue into the future.